We're looking at the AI trajectory, present impact, near-term disruptions, and a future that we need to prepare for. So imagine this, we wake up 2 years from now, and AI isn't just a tool. It's the backbone of every business decision, every strategy, every competitive edge. Some companies are thriving, some are reinventing, and others are also scrambling just to keep up. But coming and joining us on this stage are a group of individuals who are going to take us through understanding, are businesses truly harnessing their full potential, or are they just scratching the surface? So let's find out from our next set of leaders. Let's welcome onto our stage Sanjeev Vohra, Chief Technology and Innovation Officer at Genpact. In his role, he drives the company's technology strategy, scaling advanced technologies and AI capabilities, and shaping the future of digital transformation. We also have with us Senthil Ramani, Global Lead Data and AI at Accenture. And we're also delighted to have with us Srikanth Velamakanni, co-founder and group CEO at Fractal Analytics, vice chairperson of NASSCOM. And chairing this session is Govindraj Etharaj, founder of The Core. Over to you all, gentlemen.
Thank you so much. And one of the things I think that might distinguish this conversation from others you may have been hearing and paying attention to is that we'll try and focus more on the nuts and bolts of what AI means and what it could do for you and how companies are dealing with it today and trying to harness, as the lady just said, the true potential of artificial intelligence in its various forms. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask each of our speakers to speak for about 4 or 5 minutes on how they're seeing this whole concept of disruption and the future from their vantage point, which is today. Now, the subject, when we were having a short conversation before, the theme was AI trajectory, present impact, near-term disruptions, and the future we must prepare for, which are actually 3 different subjects. So we said, let's focus on one, which is more to do with what we should prepare for, but at the same time accounting for near-term disruptions, or at least keeping in mind that there are near-term disruptions. So on that note, let me start off. And Srikanth, may I ask you to go first? Speak for about 3 or 4 minutes and define the arena for us, and I'll come to the other speakers.
Okay. So we've been hearing a lot about AI since this morning and a lot about agentic AI since this morning as well. And one of the implications of AI is that there will be super expectations of productivity increases. There will be increase in intelligence or increase in accuracy. And the customer experience of technology will improve. These are 3 key things that I keep seeing in every AI application is that it will dramatically improve productivity, intelligence, and accuracy. But along with that comes the idea that, okay, there could be a big transition involved because we may not need as many people as we did before. And that's the elephant in the room, which I don't think we have sufficiently addressed. But maybe I could spend the next few minutes in at least talking about what it might mean and how to solve for what are the transition path that is there. Number 1 is that there could be job losses, which means that for the same kind of work, we may need fewer people to do. And therefore, we don't need that many people. What I'm specifically seeing is that if you see the pyramid of any large organization, that pyramid used to be like this, it's becoming like this, which means that you're losing people on the side, which has already started to impact campus placements around the world. Already you could see that whether it's Harvard or whether it is the IITs in India, the campus placements have not been as good as they have been before. So there's a question to be asked as to how do we handle this shift in the nature of work. What if a consulting firm, which relies typically on this pyramid model, doesn't need the entry-level people to come in at all because that's being performed by some other people. So that's one kind of a issue. And therefore, there could be some job losses or requirements for retraining. That's my second point, which is that the nature of work is changing, which means that you may have to graduate a different kind of a set of people. For example, any skill like coding. Coding has been such an important skill in the last many years. But if coding is now going to be significantly automated, we may not need that many coders, and the coders that we need probably are a different kind. And 3, we may need extremely high quality coders and not the mediocre coders that we have as well. So if that changes, then how does it change the nature of training and retraining? What do people have to learn in school? For example, do we have to teach them the answers, or should we ask them to ask better questions? Should we give them, one of the things I see is the need for critical thinking, right? So you may be able to get very good answers from any question. You ask a question, you get very good answers. But how can you figure out whether the model is hallucinating or not? How do you separate truth from fiction? So that kind of a critical thinking is required, which we may not be teaching enough in schools and colleges. It could also be that we need to teach people how to learn a new topic. So just imagine, typically we think of a 50-year career. Typically, 20 years ago, you could graduate from high school, or you could graduate from college and then work for the next 50 or 40 years in your career and not have to retrain yourself too many times. But now, any topic that you pick up, you may be outdated and therefore pick up a new topic and learn. So how do you learn to learn, and how do you pick up a new topic and become an expert really quickly might be required, and that may be something we may need to teach. And even in retraining, the last point I'll make on retraining is that we may also need to have people who can, we may need to have people who can take a topic, maybe lose that and learn a new topic, and then learn a third topic. So how can we have people graduate from topic to topic and have that ability to learn? So that's the second point. So we talked about job losses. We talked about retraining. Third thing I will talk about is about AI biases and responsible AI. Now, whenever responsible AI is spoken about, one of the big topics that comes up is AI safety, right? We always think about, is the AI safe enough? Which means that even if you have the right intentions, what if you build an AI that destroys the world, right? We have seen multiple examples of that. I'm sure you've heard of them. But that's the topic that's being discussed. It's an important topic. But the bigger topic in my mind is what happens to all the decisions that AI is making today, which may involve bias. So if I'm getting a credit card, do I get approved or declined? If I'm going for, let's say, if somebody is getting a parole or not getting a parole when it comes to sentencing, what happens when what kind of marketing ads do you see? So these kinds of things are all determined by bias. So the near-term disruptions, in my opinion, will be around job losses, training and retraining, and handling responsible AI situations and responsible AI biases. But slightly longer term, we also will have questions of AI safety. So that's what I think are the big topics that we need to prepare for as disruption for the world.
So just a quick question on jobs, and this has been mentioned earlier as well. Clearly, the requirement for coding in terms of people is come down now. You need much less people to do that. Is this something that is accepted now, or is there still people trying to figure out? What's your sense?
Look, I think 100% of developers are using AI tools today. 100% of developers are using AI tools today. So there's no doubt that it is making a big difference. I was hearing a conversation where Larry Page, who's gone back to Google now, he's talked about how he is using only AI to write code. He is not writing any code from scratch. Google has also said that 25% of all code written is AI assisted. So it is very clear that AI is changing the way coding is done. But it's also there that some of the really top coders still may be somewhat arrogant about their capabilities and therefore may not be using AI. So it may not be 100%, but it's clear that by and large, coding will significantly change because of AI productivity.
Okay, Senthil?
Great. Thanks for having us here at NASSCOM. But most importantly, this is the coziest couch I think we've been in out of a lot of the panels. So thank you for that. This really is comfortable for Sanjeev and I. You're missing this. You should be back here sometime. I think 3 key points go in. Number 1 is, I think the marginal cost of generation has gone down significantly in AI. We kind of talked about it last year at NASSCOM. I think what's happening right now is that the marginal cost of action and intelligence is going down significantly. And that's because of agentic AI. And while Gen AI was a good catalyst, for adoption of AI across enterprises. I think a large part of what is happening is agentic AI is taking this to a different level. There's a step change right now, right, on the same. Now, our premise is that every organization, enterprise and government, should have a cognitive digital brain. And what we mean by a cognitive digital brain is that organizations should have their processes, workflows, roles, guardrails, vision, and values codified, right, into this cognitive digital brain. And we believe the cognitive digital brain, once the enterprise creates it or a government creates it, is going to be a completely different differentiator, for them. And it'll move away from the laggards to become, kind of leaders on the same. So let's kind of unpack that, right? What does it really mean? And a lot of what Srikanth was saying, I just want to amplify some of your points here. Number one is really, from a process perspective, and I'll say this in the context of clients and what does it mean to us, right, in servicing the client. In the context of clients, it really means is that this is a massive reinvention. This is not a re-engineering effort. If it's re-engineering, I would take process number 2, 3, 5 and I kind of change it. But this is reinvention of it. Can using agentic AI fundamentally change that completely? Which also means that we need more time from the client to be spent on this. This is a reinvention of the entire enterprise, so that's going to be important. The second important thing that's happening is data, right? Data continues to be the Achilles heel of any AI transformation. It's no different from an agentic standpoint. And new forms of data that are actually coming in are going to be critical as well on the same. The third thing is organizations need to understand there is a convergence happening on 4 forms of AI. Number one is consumer AI, which is what we typically tend to talk about. Number 2 is enterprise AI, right, which we've done for many, many years right now. The third is sovereign AI, and the last is physical and industrial AI. And Govind, I do want to come back to that topic later when we talk about examples on that. Why am I saying that? So you cannot have a process today defined and run the guardrails, like Srikanth rightfully said, on responsible AI, and not understand what the sovereign considerations are, because every company operates in every other company as well today as a multinational. So it's really important to understand the convergence effect, of all of this happening. The last 2 things is in terms of the skills transformation. Right? Number one is the skills with which the client need to operate is very different. They need deep skills from their side. They need deep skills from our side, like Srikanth rightfully said. There is one end, there is deep domain skills you need, process skills, etc. On the other end, you need deep technology skills in the role of a computational engineer. Full stack scientist is becoming higher. And in fact, psychology is becoming an extremely important skill. I just want to amplify the critical thinking point that you put on top of it. And the last thing is on responsible AI. When I have conversations with both enterprises and governments, I kind of reframe the conversation. I said it's not about whether you want to do it in the right way, ethics and guardrails, but look at what happens if you do it in the right way. The outcome of that is that organizations who've moved away from policy into practice of responsible AI have had an 18% uplift on their revenues. The minute you have that conversation and you bring purpose and profit together, it changes the landscape quite a bit.
So when you talked about re-engineering to reinvention, what's the best example that illustrates that from either your own enterprise or what you've seen elsewhere?
Perfect. Look, let me talk about Accenture, because one of the strongest beliefs for us is we are only relevant if we do it ourselves first, right? We learn from scars and stars in that order, Govind. So that we've applied here on our marketing department. So in our marketing department, we used to run campaigns. We used to run a lot of the work around communications and so on. And we also identify which campaigns to go after. What is our competition doing, or what are our clients doing, and so on and so forth. So, and the typical process was probably 11, 12 steps to get to a campaign, build a campaign, and then release the campaign. We applied agents on it. We have now hundreds of agents running in collaboration with our marketers. And what I mean by that, we have digital agents and marketers kind of working hand in glove on the same. And we've now been able to see a 6% cost reduction overall once we've run it agentic, and 35% of the processes unwinded completely, which means that you're able to get to throughput much faster as well. So now we are taking this to obviously clients as we're learning from this, and a large confectionery company is using the same model.
Thanks for that. Sanjeev?
Yeah, I think we are getting into a very exciting times. And you talked about it next 18 to 24 months. I think this 18 to 24 months will be very defining for every company who has realized, I think my view, most of the companies have realized already that there's a power in AI. And there are very few people who are sitting on the fence who don't realize that there's a power in AI. But obviously, everybody's struggling in terms of how to actually make it happen, like how to actually use AI for business applications. But I can tell you 3 trends which I've noticed in the last 6 months. The first one being that in the first half of the last year was still very conservative, and there was some reluctance in terms of spending money into this area. I think the second half, great discussions have started happening in terms of not only looking at AI as a cost or tech element, but what can it do to generate a business value, a true business value and outcome conversation. I think that's phenomenal, which means the business and IT of every enterprise has started coming together. I think it's a fundamental shift in the way people are going to see this evolution now, because the speed will now gain. Number two is that we did a survey 4 or 5 months back, and it's clearly coming out of survey that the AI and data as part of the IT spend is going to increase now. So everybody's saying broadly that within our IT spend, we may increase our IT spend as well as a company, but the most importantly, we're going to double our investment in data and AI within the IT spend. So that's very different marker in the industry, because now there's a serious point forward. The third thing is very interesting. So I categorize the company into two parts, 10 billion and above and 10 billion and below. Let's call it a small and mid-size. You can define anything in mid-size, but let's say $1 to $10 billion companies. What we started seeing is that they are going to be spending 4 times more than a large company in terms of percentage share of the revenue on AI. And that's phenomenal, which means there will be new companies who will now leapfrogging faster than the traditional companies. So that's the environment we are working on. So very exciting. The problem is that it's not an easy problem to deal with. It's a hard thing to implement. And I think the difference between a high-performing company and people who will will cross the bridge will be that how much effort they put into next 18 to 24 months, right? Now the problem they're having is that all of the companies have system of records, which is SAPs and ERPs and everything else, and a lot of money goes there to maintain them today, right? And then they have built something called system of engagement, which means the chatbots, the web portals. When you go to a bank, how do you interact with the bank? How do you interact with the telco? All those investments have been done. The problem is nobody is stitching them together, and the data is not flowing at the pace that it should flow. So that's where the investment is going to go, and you will see that very clearly, that companies will now push hard, saying, let's invest in the middle layer in terms of, let's say, building a connective tissue between the system of records and system of engagement, so that you can push the things forward faster in terms of data, in terms of putting AI agents, and doing things which humans were doing between these two systems, actually. And that's a shift we are seeing. Now, in terms of our company, Genpact, I think we feel this journey very exciting. So first of all, we're spending a lot of investment in this space. But beyond that, 2 things we are investing in to make it very, very simple. And everything comes in those 2 banners. The first one is that we have figured out that the middle layer, if you have to build piece by piece, it is taking a lot of time. So can you look at a process, just like what Senthil is saying, and reinvent the process itself by creating a middle layer called system of innovation by using AI? So think about invoice verification or invoice processing. Can you rechange the way you invoice verification? That will change the way you actually do work today, and obviously reskill your people in a way that they can start working with machine gradually and start understanding how they have to play with the machine, right? So we have called something called as service agentic solution, which is nothing else but building the agentic solution in between. The second thing we are doing is where clients are mature and they have a lot of ideas and use cases, but they don't know how to implement it. Like, how do we start model selection? Shall we use DeepSeek or shall we use something else? How do we maintain it? So we opened up something called as Gigafactory, which is nothing else but a large-scale AI deployment and a mechanism to build and maintain it for a life cycle and continuously improve on that. But those are the things which we are seeing in the market right now.
So quick question, then I come back to Srikanth. So you're saying that, we spoke about this earlier as well. There is a sense that we are not able to realize the best out of technology, right? There are projects that you've invested in over years, and you talked about some of these middle layer projects, and there's frustration. So here comes AI, and you're saying that, okay, let's step up investment. So it could be driven by either fear, or it could be driven by, maybe a competitive reason, or maybe a perceived outcome. Where do your clients or the people you talk to fit?
I think the clients, as I said, the most important thing is they definitely want to see technology more invisible than it has been in the past.
Okay.
They really want to see process driving the change. That's a shift we are seeing. And that comes from the business outcome discussion, saying how the business outcome can be delivered. The second big pain, I think, has been data for ages. And it still remains the biggest pain as to how to activate the data which already exists in the company and enterprise. And that's why the investments are kind of related investments, because without data, you can't make out AI. But that's where I think the focus is on right now.
Okay. Srikanth? So we've talked about, let's say, we've laid out what the objective is. We know that getting there is going to mean it's not going to be an easy path. But where do you see the maximum pain points in your dealings with your own clients, for example? And what have they done to get around them? Or how smart have they been in getting around them?
See, after the initial excitement of advanced AI, which started from ChatGPT and so on, there was a entire phase of fear, which was around privacy, safety, security, compliance, reputational risk. So people would say, hey, my data is not secure, etc. So that took a full year for it to resolve itself. And now I think people are much more willing to build stuff and scale it. And some of the initial fears around reputation have also gone away. What I see as a big change also happening in the industry today is that we were living in an era, I would call as an era of pre-training. Right? The pre-training was all about building good large language models. And my equivalent for that is, it is about sending a kid to middle school and high school. And after this middle school and high school is done, they have graduated, they have good knowledge, they can answer questions, they can summarize, but they can't do get a lot of things done because they still don't know how to get things done in the real world. So that era is over. Now we've entered the next era, and all of the big frontier companies are also investing in that, which is about sending the kid to college, which essentially is strengthening the training on domain. Can I make them a healthcare expert? Can I make them a driving expert? Or can I make them a financial service expert or supply chain expert? That's one. Second, can I make them navigate the real world, including the world of software? So can I make them, if I have to book a train ticket or a plane ticket or plan a vacation, can I do all of the activities and the sub-activities required? Can I plan and execute them? And three, can I navigate in physical world? So that's, I would say, is the graduation phase. And that's when they're ready to work. Now, what you're seeing is now these powerful agentic AIs are able to accomplish real tasks in the real world and in the software world. And therefore, because of that extremely higher power of getting things done, now you're seeing that they will be much more deployable in the organizational systems. And that's when the excitement for enterprise, within enterprise is going up. But I will still say that one of the big jobs for the tech industry of the world is to make sure that this AI excitement is translated into enterprise performance. There is still a gap between AI excitement and enterprise performance. Until we crack that problem, we'll still not have the greatest adoption that we're looking for.
Senthil, how are you seeing this in terms of the gap between excitement and conversion to enterprise applications and so on?
Massively. I think I spend half my time in the Valley and half my time in Bangalore. I trade between innovation and scale. And every time I go back to the Valley, there are 3 more new models I have to learn from, right? I mean, so the differentiation is not on the models. There are 2,200 models that we track at this point in time as Accenture. And it's not that. It's like below the iceberg kind of an issue, right? The challenge really, I would kind of go back, and if you kind of reframe this, only 13% of enterprises have actually truly scaled and seen P&L impact. Back to exactly what Srikanth and Sanjeev were saying. And 13% is a lot of, it's not a big number. There's a lot of work to be done. And I think if you kind of decode and look at the anatomy of what the challenge is like the 4 challenges that we talked earlier, is you can sum up everything into one single word, is the courage of an enterprise, right? If the courage of the enterprise is to make those changes at the C-suite level, at the data level, at the responsible AI level, for you to make the changes on re-engineering versus reimagination and reinvention, that's a common factor, if you see, right, in most cases on enterprises. And out of those 13% that we saw, those were the enterprises which had the courage to make the change and to use AI in the right way and not get swayed away by the technology alone, by bringing everything together as well.
So the example that you used from your own company, you talked about marketing and communication. So is that because the courage was most in that area, or was it because that, I don't know, was it a low-hanging fruit, or?
No, it's a great question. So it transcends from the top. Like our CEO started it, and she said, this is an area of transformation that we've got to do. And then you also need to look at the readiness of the folks, right? In terms of data, in terms of processes, in terms of the people, and so on, and an ability to go faster with it. Consumer AI, like I mentioned earlier, was always first off the gates, which is obviously why it makes sense to start there. But others are not lagging behind with enterprise and others that are going in as well. So that's why we started with marketing.
Okay. Sanjeev, any examples from you on where you've hit first, or where you fired the first shot?
So I think I just wanted to, so I think pilots are over, right? In the last 6 months, to be very clear, we are not doing any pilots, zero. It's all going into deploying into productions. And I think the difference which was there 6 months back was because it was taking time to get to the production. Now the speed is coming because of business value discussion. Because as soon as the C-suite gets involved, the speed comes automatically. You see what I'm saying? Because they just push it hard, saying that we need a business return, so it moves faster. I think the example that you were saying about examples, so let me give you a couple of quick ones, right? One is within Genpact, we have right now 20 agents floating around in the company. And we use the last 1 year to build these agents and deploy them to learn how to build and maintain these agents, right? And how to build an architecture around that. So these agents are now used by everybody, the entire employee base. And they are generating now the financial returns for us. So they are locked up to the business value in terms of what we really want to extract out of this. Broadly 20% of the cost takeout and the expense and administration, right? That's what we're taking out, right? So that's a large number. The client.
So you say when you say 20%, you mean what does that include? Is that people, salaries?
No, it's the amount of work we are doing with a G&A cost for managing our operations. We'll be able to extract that out because of the agentic. So agentic workforce will do some of the pieces which our humans are doing right now. Now, the same thing that applies to our clients as well. So if I pick up a client right now, let's say for example, and they're all ready to business value conversations, right? So for example, if I pick up a client which is into it's a $50 billion company. It's Liberty Mutual. So that they're insurers, property and casualty, and they pass around $1 billion claims every year. So it's a large number, right? So what we are doing with them is we are trying to use Amazon Bedrock technology. We have a relationship with Amazon as Amazon Prime and AWS both. And the idea is what customers want in that industry is they want three things. They want speed of claims processing. Obviously, we all want speed from our insurers, right? Insurance company. The second is transparency because people want to know exactly how did you calculate my claim reimbursement. And the third thing is the estimation itself. People would like to know what is the logic of the estimation that you're giving me this claim for, right? Now, a lot of that is done manually, as you may be able to appreciate. A lot of people involved. Let me take one element of that called pricers. Pricers are the people who are doing estimation for the claims that we submit as an insurer, right? That whole area, because of the new AI agentic technology, that has a potential to around 70% savings in there, right? You can use more agents than actually humans in that space, right? So I'm just giving you the flavor of that. And again, it's a journey. It doesn't happen overnight. But the whole idea is, are you putting human in the loop first and to the human over the loop? And that itself is a journey from getting to using AI embedded inside the process to AI being the process itself. So
got it. Okay, so I don't know if this is sounding frightening or optimistic, but we're also going to head to the end. I would have loved to take questions, but we are behind time and running late already. So Srikanth, let's come back to you. And I'm going to touch upon sovereign AI as well, because that's the regulatory side. So we started by saying that we are exploring near-term disruptions and talking about the future that we must prepare for. So given all of this, given the fact that things are going to fundamentally change because it's driven by competition, it's driven by, let's say, the changing nature of business, we've got new problems to deal with, including geopolitics, which is going to change a lot of cost structures for companies, which means more pressure on technology to bring about some of these savings. So what is it that we should be preparing for, or could we be preparing for, including mentally, as we look ahead?
Yeah, I would say I want to put 3 takeaways in front of the audience here and see if it makes sense to you. I think for a long time, we've been competing with AI, competing against AI.
Yeah.
Now we have to start competing using AI. Because I think that those days are gone. We realize that AI is something that is a weapon that you must have with you. Instead of fighting with it, use it on your side. That's number one. Number two is that I think like Senthil also pointed out, the marginal cost of intelligence is going to zero, which means that every time you tap into a model to get insight, action, etc., the cost is going to zero. So usage will explode. So don't fight it. Second thing, don't fight it. Okay? And third, given this, every enterprise in the world should reimagine or reinvent, in Senthil's language, every business process with AI. It is a very big thing. It will change the game. So if you stop competing with AI, if you understand that AI usage will explode because marginal cost is going to zero, and use it to reimagine every business process with AI, then be ready for all the consequences which come with it, which includes some of the disruption that I started on a very negative note, but those are the disruptions we have to prepare for. But the real positives are is the ability to create this exploding growth in GDP and therefore human welfare thanks to AI, as long as we prepare for the disruptions.
Okay, Senthil?
On sovereign AI?
And a sum up, I mean, we're run out of time.
Yeah,
as
sure.
well,
Look,
so
I think just 10 seconds on sovereign
the future
AI.
we should prepare for, and you could include sovereign AI in your...
Got it. So look, I think the future we should prepare for is skills and skilling and awareness and learning. I have a belief that for every dollar that you spend on technology and AI, you need to be spending $7 on learning and awareness and skilling, because that's going to be the key for us. The pivot that Srikanth talked about, Sanjeev talked about in terms of this, these are not simple pivots in the industry. This is a massive pivot. That's, I think, my key takeaway is on really the learning aspect. On sovereign AI, just because you told me to hit that, I think the real thing on sovereign AI is it's an exciting time because internet did not have rules. Sovereign AI can build rules and guardrails for how AI is used within an enterprise, within enterprises, as well as within society and within the citizens and how they actually use it. So it's an important thing, and we should accelerate sovereign AI significantly.
Right, okay. I just want to get your thoughts, Senthil. Srikanth said that people should not fight it. And obviously, when he says that, he means because he says that because he sees people fighting it, I'm assuming. Do you get the same sense? And why is it that people are still fighting it?
It's because the business case is the hardest one to do. I think if some of my clients tell me, write a business case for data strategy, I don't want to get that question because it's always in service of something. It's in service of the P&L. It's service of process, in terms of profit or purpose. So that's the most important thing.
Okay. Last word, Sanjeev.
I think there is only one hurdle between us and use of AI, and that's going to be us only. So I think we all have said in our own words, but continuous learning and training yourself continuously to use AI as the AI progresses, because what you see today is going to be very different 3 years from now. So you will see more and more AI taking charge of mundane activities where we'll be just monitoring and intervening only when required. That's human over the loop. And when you go to autonomy, a lot of things will be happening. 60% things will start happening automatically. And you will not be informed as well because they will be happening rightfully based on your training to the AI. Okay. I think my take is that whole reskilling of our own self to use AI effectively is going to be the biggest challenge to get to the value that we can attain from this new alpha, this alpha technology.
Right. Okay, Srikanth, absolutely last question. So, we have seen incremental technology changes over the last 2 decades, even as NASSCOM sitting here. What is the one thing that convinces you that this is the exponential one compared to the previous incremental ones?
See, because this is the most general purpose technology that we have. It is absolutely at the same level as electricity. And it is a fundamental, the quest for humans to build intelligent machines is not a 30-year-old quest, it's not a 100-year-old quest, it's a 500-year-old quest. For 500 years, human beings have been trying to invent machines that match or perform tasks at a human level. So, and we have started to make significant progress. We know that the path to that AGI is absolutely clear. Maybe something will come up, but as of right now, it seems very clear that with all the demonstrations that you've already seen, that it's imminent. It's probably 2 years away. The path to AGI is probably 2 years away. Already, any AI beats humans in almost every topic. Let's take me, right? Except for maybe one or two topics that I'm maybe a deep expert on, I'm still struggling to find what those are. Any AI will beat me on everything already. So by any stretch, any definition that we had in the 10 years ago,
Past.
we've already reached the point of AGI. But we always update the definition of AGI. And now the latest definition of AGI is, can it do scientific breakthroughs? And AI is already doing scientific breakthroughs. So I think we're already at that point. I don't have to prove to you that we will get there, because we're already at a point where even if all AI progress stops today, nothing else gets invented. We have at least 10 years of enterprise catch-up out there. Right? For 10 years, enterprise can use that and develop and grow the global productivity for 10 years. So we don't need to bank on any future promises of AI.
Right.
Current is already good enough.
Right, and that's a great opportunity and challenge for everyone sitting here. So, and we've run out of time completely. Thank you very much on that for bringing it to the context of a 500-year-old problem that we are trying to address now and going forward in addressing our disruptions and preparing for the future. Thank you all, and thank you, NASSCOM, for inviting me as well.